We have seen a lot of Rob Lucci, aka Rob Gucci, on Egghead Island in both the manga and the anime, and it has been a very damn enjoyable ride on both fronts, without a damn doubt. So for this video, I'm gonna be taking a truly respectable crack as to gauge how powerful Rob Lucci is now and why he is this powerful. And for this video, I'm going to be using 10 different metrics to gauge Rob Lucci's power. So let's say his attack power, let's say his speed, let's say his stamina. All of these things will be timestamped in the description box down below. And on the way down, make sure to slap that thumbs up and support your boy's content at large. This video will be pretty robust. However, I'll be focusing primarily on the manga, since the manga is the primary canon material for the One Piece story. Animes love them, but the anime is an adaptation of the manga for the most part. And even though I will be using anime material here and there to fill in some details where the manga is sorely lacking them and add more context if necessary, we lead with the manga first and foremost. That is how in earnest I would say you get the most accurate depiction of the character. So let's take it step by step and piece by piece, this fair power scaling, let's call it that, this fair power scaling of Rob Lucci. So first of all, physical strength. It's hard to say exactly how strong he is physically, since let's say whenever you see him pick up a giant building and throw said building, just yeet it. However, during his fight against Luffy in episode 1100, he was destroying buildings and skyscrapers on a regular basis with regular claw swipes, kicks, and punches, so with relative ease. And we know he is much stronger than his pre-time skip version, that at the point in time had a power level, a Doriki, of 4,000 without transforming, first shown in chapter 379 with Rakuro's test. So he is 400 times stronger than the average marine with a weapon. Lucci can match Gear 5 Luffy in regular clashes, shown episode 1100 and chapter 1069. But it's really, honestly, it's really hard to say if he is on that level, since Luffy seems to be, for the most part, messing around, having a good old time in Gear 5 form. And obviously later on during the fight, he started to outpace Lucci in spades. In episode 1101, Lucci does get a punch on Luffy, an uppercut, and he sends him flying to the sky. But this seemingly does nothing to Luffy, since he does rebound very quickly and then hits with a Dawn Whip. Therefore, the best person to gauge his strength, Lucci's strength, is Zoro. In base form, he could block Zoro's regular attack without any issue, shown in chapter 1091. Later on, in chapter 1093, Zoro in King of Hell form and Lucci in Awakened form were trading blows, no name attacks, again in some sense equalizing, like last time in the first clash, equalizing the physical strength between Lucci and Zoro. So saying that Lucci, in terms of physical prowess, is near Zoro because of the duration of their fight and how they could trade for so long, that is relatively fair. After that, we have attack power. Lucci's attacks are at least as strong as Gear 4 bound man Luffy, in some respects here. In chapter 1076 and 1077, he does synchronized combo attacks with Luffy on S-Bear. And normally these sort of combo attacks are signs of equal attack power. So think of Luffy and Zoro punching a hole through the Aqua Laguna in Water 7. Or let's say Luffy and Sanji saving Reiju and stopping Big Mom's attack during the wedding. Lucci in these chapters is not in Awakened form, but he does use the 6 King Pistol comboed with Luffy's Kong Gun. And in the manga adaptation, there are no signs of Conqueror's Haki infusion being used by Monkey D. So the Kong Gun is the very first attack that he gave to Doflamingo and Dressrosa when he went to Gear 4 for the first time. The one that sent Doffy packing. And of course, Luffy now is much stronger than his Dressrosa counterpart. Therefore, Rob Lucci's 6 King gun is equal to a stronger, a superior version than that very same Kong gun. And this would still be the case even if Luffy didn't train in Armament Haki, in Udon, or even awakened Conqueror's Haki in Fusion. The characters get stronger over the course of their journey because it's alluded to, actually stated by Shanks directly in chapter 1079, where kids' growth rate after Wano probably improved dramatically. And it's also a similar line that Zoro states in chapter 383, where over the course of the journey, given these experiences, their power steadily improved. That's how in One Piece they get stronger a lot of times, but there is no real dedicated training arc for it. Instead of learning to code in class, you learn in the internet wilds. That's how it's done in the world of One Piece. However, in these chapters, Rob Lucci is not, as far as you can tell, he is not using the maximum ring version of his Six King gun. But that technique is still the secret Ogi, the pinnacle of the Six Power martial art. He also did another attack on S-Bear with Luffy, once again showing that they're equal in power in some sense. And obviously, though off screen, factually, he did match Zoro in power for quite a bit of time. Finally, in chapter 1070, episode 1101, his hand pistol might have broken through Sentomaru's guard, where Kizaru's initial kick in chapter 1090 could not break through Sentomaru's guard. So it's safe to say that Rob Gucci's attacks could be on the same tier as Luffy's Gear 4 attacks with Conqueror's Haki Infusion when he's awakened, since when he was not awakened, he could match Luffy's attacks without seemingly Conqueror's Haki Infusion. Though I'll keep it a stack, Gear 5 moves like the Dawn Rocket, they seem to be beyond Rob Lucci's current attack power. Even if, let's say, his maximum ring, Six King gun, pistol, even if that is even stronger when he's in awakened form. So in the actual power scale of things, I do think, let's say, putting Rob Lucci at small island plus, let's say island levels, for AP, I think is fair. That'll be like 2 or 3 pegs below someone like Zoro in attack power in my book. Though, if Luffy did have infusion on his attacks during those combo moves, then following the combo logic, Lucci's attacks would be among, let's say, the stronger Gear 4 moves and techniques when he's in awakened form with Conqueror's Haki Infusion. The anime in the future may clear up if Luffy has on infusion or not during those combo moves. Next is DC, Destructive Capacity, which is ultimately how much area can the character destroy, essentially. Rob Lucci didn't destroy any large areas on Egghead Island at all, but his widest rage move in the pre-time skip was the Victory Bird Storm Leg attack, where he cut through a large portion of the building that they were fighting in, both him and Luffy. And it was also shown in chapter 422 when he cut through the iron of a marine battleship's hull. Now, the attack back then was just as tall as a marine battleship's main body, not including the sails and the mast, no, just the main base ship itself. But right now, Rob Lucci is far more powerful, absolutely, in orders of magnitude. So just simply saying, hey, could he cut a marine ship, an actual earnest to goodness marine battleship, the main base and the sails and the mast, the entire thing in one go, I think, oh yeah, that is absolutely fair. And considering how big these ships are, we're thinking for giants on them, we're talking about, including the sail and everything, we're talking about like 300 meters, 1,000 feet. No issue. Basically 6 times the size of the Sun Eagle. That minimum, I think, is probably like a super low ball. It's one marine battleship. How is that not a low ball for awakened Rob Lucci? I would go as far as saying that Rob Lucci could also cut the horn off of Onigashima the same way or in a similar manner that Zoro did. After all, keep in mind that Zoro and Rob Lucci, based on this arc, are comparable in some ways. And recall, as I said before, given the experiences, given the change in environment, so on and so forth, they do get stronger progressively over the course of the story. So Zoro now is stronger than Zoro at the beginning of Onigashima. Yes, he is. And Rob Lucci is comparable to Zoro now. Not Zoro back then, Zoro now. So for Rob Lucci's DC, I would say Mountain Plus, Mountain Rage, and I'm cool with that. I am absolutely cool with that. After DC, we have Range. At a bare minimum, Rob Lucci's Storm Leg can probably go for miles within the entire Fabio Lab City that him and Monkey D. Luffy were fighting in. Even his maximum range 6 King pistol, even that attack could, through shockwaves, travel a distance within that building and then hit the wall when he did to Luffy in the pre-time skip. And his Storm Legs have much longer range. And after range, we have speed. Lucci is very quick, extremely quick. And the best examples of his speed are in the anime, episodes 1100 and 1101. The manga versions, 1070, it does do a better job of showcasing speed rather than 1069, where he does use shave to cover ground to get to Sentomaru. And then later in the chapter, he does avoid Luffy's giant Cuphead boss bite by darting to the top left of the panel. And in that moment in the manga, it seemed like he was using the razor technique, where he combines both moonwalk and shave, where he darts like a lightning bolt. And then also, when he does the handgun, when he drills a hole in Sentomaru, he is very quick there in chapter 1069. But there also appears to be an element of surprise, stealth, involved in that, since not even Luffy could perceive at that point in time Lucci's movements, though Sentomaru apparently did. And at the beginning of episode 1101, it seems like Sentomaru is potentially seeing the future, or at least sensing it in some degree, to try and stop Rob Lucci before he gets drilled. So it's unclear exactly, but he did attempt to block the attack. He did perceive Rob Lucci. And also, of course, in the anime, we see at the beginning of 1100, after he transforms, and then later on in episode 1101, him darting all over the place in both instances, where he just on all fours and he's just running. He's running hella fast. In 1100, the Monkey D's Luffy's getting confused, like, oh my god, what's going on? But then ultimately dodges it, Nika cheeks up, and then keeps it pushing. And then in the next episode, Luffy in giant form, kind of like Maru Uchiha when he first pulled up, he's able to track Lucci's movements as he darts around him. Also, in a similar way to Zoro with King the Wildfire in episode 1062. So even though he's fast, nowhere near fast enough for Monkey D. Luffy, because Luffy ultimately, he deads him 3 times with the Mo pistol, then the Dawn Whip, and then finally the Dawn Rocket. And then Lucci has no recourse. He just gets deaded, boom, bop, bada bing bop, and then pow. End of story. It's over. So once again, even though it was mostly off screen, the best way to perceive Rob Lucci's speed is probably through the lens of Zoro, since Zoro could not put him down nearly as easily as Luffy could. And given his speed feats on paper, that is pretty impressive. Zoro was able to perceive, in the manga a lot less so, but in the anime he could perceive King the Wildfire's movement. But a stronger version of Zoro, it wasn't that easy on paper to deal with someone like Lucci, who is quite fast. So it's safe to say then, given how Zoro is stronger now than he was back then, it's safe to say that Lucci is at least comparable to King the Wildfire in speed when his flames are off, if not even faster than King the Wildfire, because Zoro is stronger now than he was back then. And that I would say is pretty damn fair. Now, after speed is durability. Durability meaning being able to tank damage, meaning 0. So it's either no damage and or very light damage. You walk it off, not a big deal, keep it pushing. I would say that Lucci could likely tank damage from regular bullets and cannons, no problem, in his awakened Zoan form. Not a big deal. In fact, I would say anything underneath small city level of attack power does not do much at all to Rob Lucci. A Muggy Ball ain't gonna cut it. He can just stand there and just get mad. Probably start snarling too. Go feral. Go crazy. Zoan abilities are made to up one's physical stats to an extreme extent. At a baseline, the Zoan Awakened users are even more extreme. Let's harken back to the words of Sir Crocodile in chapter 544, their toughness and recovery speed greatly improves once they have awakened their bodies. So Hybrid Lucci is losing to Awakened Hybrid Lucci just in terms of toughness and recovery speed. In a similar sense to Luffy, where he got greater physicality when he goes into Gear 5 for his regular form, Lucci's probably the same way. Though, obviously, given the Nika, right, how one's a leopard, the other one is an actual One Piece god. Albeit ancestral plane leopard, that's fun, but not a Nika, okay? So the comparison is night and day, no pun intended, because one's white, one black, that doesn't matter. The whole point here is that, yes, Lucci in defense and durability is damn good. And he does have the iron body. He does have hockey to stack on top of those things. But innately, with natural durability, he is likely a far cry from Luffy, but saying he has better durability than even Zoro is not that crazy. Because at a baseline, it is in the nature of the Zoan ability user. And this also applies to endurance. What I said for durability also applies here too. And endurance essentially here is how much pain tolerance someone has. And Rob Lucci has extremely high pain tolerance, to the point where he took a full-on Conqueror's Haki infused attack from Zoro after a rival buff, after a you're hurting the crew buff, and Rob Lucci did not pass out. That is a very impressive endurance feat on the part of Rob Lucci, particularly when he fought for that long and he could still stand on his 2 feet after taking that attack from Zoro. Particularly in the story of One Piece, where Oda does give a lot of the swordsmen, he gives them a lot of attack power. You see it with Zoro, you see it with Oden, you see it with Mihawk. These guys can clap dudes in a single swing. Pause. In terms of Lucci's endurance, I would say he could take heavy, like very heavy attacks from guys like Marco, Sanji, Jinbei, King the Wildfire, etc., like those kind of dudes, and be in a very similar state and keep things pushing. If we assume, rightfully so, he had more endurance at the beginning of the fight than at the end of the fight, then it's safe to say he could take even heavier attacks from Zoro at that point in time and also still stand on his 2 feet. The physique of the awakened Zoan Devil user has to be respected. And Rob Lucci, he proved that. Luffy, of course, but Rob Lucci also proved that too, in spades. And with that huge physique upgrade comes a stamina buff. In the fight in Enies Lobby with Luffy, Lucci, he did show, for sure, a lot of stamina. This guy, he's a half-day man. He ain't no scrub. But it's hard to translate that one-to-one from pre-time skip to post-time skip, because Lucci has gotten a lot better, but the opponents he faces are also a lot tougher too in the post-time skip. And there are 2 things we can gauge for his stamina. Obviously, number 1, the Zoro fight, where it was off-screen in the manga for the most part, true, but it lasted from chapter 1091 to 1110. 1091 is well before St. J. Garcia Saturn touches down, and is when the first Luffy versus Kizaru fight begins. 1110 is when all 5 elders roll on up, and we're already a few minutes deep into Vegapunk's global message. That is a long fight. It's not like the day-long battles that you get with, let's say, Katakuri and Luffy, or let's say even days. So you have, you know, Akainu and Kuzan. No. But it's still nonetheless a pretty damn long bout. The fight was taking so long that Nami's group that got derailed by Kizaru, mind you, they were able to get the Sunigo to a location at the end of the island on that level area. And Usopp stopped the ship from moving. And Usopp and Nami company, they were waiting for Jinbei and Zoro. Jinbei vowed to get Zoro out of that fight, even if required. So even the Straw Hats, the characters themselves, particularly Sanji, of course, even the Straw Hats themselves were complaining about how long this fight was taken. And obviously, it's not to say by any measure that Zoro is weak. No. Rob Lucci is that strong. His fighting ability and his stamina, particularly, were even still before the arrival of J. Garcia Saturn in 1093. That's when we first see his awakened form during the fight. Luffy goes into Gear 5 two times with a break in food and so on, while Rob Lucci is able to maintain his ancestral leopard form, bro. That is a testament to his stamina. The man can go the long haul. And the second important thing is, of course, his insane recovery rate. Once again, hearken to the words of Crocodile in 544. Awakened Zoan Duffer users do not stay down for long. And in episode 1101, between him passing out, Luffy arriving to the Labo area, and then the lockdown of the entire Fabrio area, Lucci is back on his feet looking at Sentomaru. Now, the anime does clarify, to my surprise, because I thought it was way longer, but the anime does clarify, from their perspective, that Rob Lucci does get up before Sentomaru goes down. So, in the actual time of the anime, it's like a few minutes. However, the anime also adds this detail too, where he was getting patched up off screen. Since he arrives at Sentomaru's location before he goes down, he already has that patch on his face. We don't know who patched him up. Folks say it is the fabled legendary Hattori. Maybe, I'm a doubt stuff. But we don't know if Rob Lucci would have gone back up so quickly from Luffy's Dawn Rocket if he wasn't getting patched up off screen. That right now is still unclear, very unclear. But nonetheless, regardless, you do have to worry about the Awakened Zoan's fast recovery time. And that does play a role, you guessed it, in stamina. After that, we have the last two. Number one is intelligence, and intelligence is, well, it's pretty simple. Rob Lucci's pretty smart. What we saw in the pre-time skip does carry over to the post-time skip when it comes to intelligence. And the post-time skip saw in 1090, he was sliding in that intel, that juice intel to the Marines, and Kizaru loved it. During 1091, when Kizaru arrives, he had a very good chance to take out Dr. Vegapunk, but in came Stussy, she saw what was gonna happen there. That was smart on Lucci's part to wait for that moment. And then in 1111, when Mars comes in, Lucci gives him all the intel he needs right then and there, and Marcus Mars was pleased. Well done. Lucci is a smart dude. Recall the pre-time skip, he flooded their tunnel to the tower where he and Luffy were fighting in as a way of cutting off and drowning any of Luffy's allies. Then he figured out how Gear 2 worked relatively quickly, where he knew it was a doping mechanism, where via that stance, he was accelerating the blood flow across his whole body. On Egghead Island, episode 1100, what did he do? When he was punted away by Luffy, he took the chance to stealth in there, try and take out Sentomaru, because he knew they'd lose the battle if the Seraphim were still following Sentomaru's orders. Even in 1078, he told Luffy, yo, chill, you can't attack them mindlessly, use your head, Luffy, as he did like the Red Hawk Gatling against S-Bear. So Lucci does have high IQ and high battle IQ, that is for damn sure. I would say he's smarter than Useless Captain Kidd, than King the Wildfire, than many of the cats in the story when it comes to IQ and then battle IQ. Yeah, for sure. After this last category, we have skills and abilities. Overall, we know what his main things are. Haki, Devil Power, and the foundation of that is the Rokushiki, the 6 power martial art techniques. And this foundation makes his actual abilities amplify in power exponentially because he's such a refined fighter. He has the ability to do storm leg kicks that can travel and cut at range. He has the ability to mold and shift his body using paper art to dodge attacks more effectively. He can combine shave with moonwalk, skywalk, to make Razor and move like a lightning ball at extreme speed. He has full body control with his Seimin Kiken, life return techniques. Rob Lucci has a myriad of skills. Among all of the 6 power users so far, he's the only one that's actually learned, as far as you can tell, the 7th secret Roke Ogen, the one that can actually bypass natural physique internal shockwave damage that is on a whole new level of power. Lucci's him, to the point where we may never see a 6 power user as skilled as Rob Lucci, even though we have, let's say, in the future, Holy Knights coming up, we have seen the power so far of the Elders, but there's a chance that even still, come the end of the series, the greatest 6-power practitioner is Rob Lucci. The Leopard Zoan is a regular Zoan ability, but it never feels that way because of how skilled he is using this martial arts, this Kenpo, and how this Kenpo is only enhancing the uniqueness of the Leopard power itself. He does have hockey, but his hockey game is not all that, I would say, right now. He has, on paper, observation, yeah, and we have seen him harden his leg and his fist on several occasions via armament hockey, but no signs of any advanced usage of armament hockey like with Sentomaru, who can do the air deflections, let alone Luffy's version that does internal damage. No Conqueror's hockey at all. However, remember Sentomaru's thing. He got deaded by Lucci, and Luffy couldn't sense him. And it seems like, okay, in the anime, he was quiet, silent, and it reminded me of what happened on Zou with Luffy in chapter 805. At that point in time, obviously a much weaker Luffy, but he still had the observation hockey. But he didn't sense any of the minks around him. They were able to, in some sense, pull a Hunter x Hunter Zetsu. They could suppress their presence. So I think Lucci did that too. So Lucci, like a predator, a leopard stalking at night, looking for prey, Lucci was able to suppress his presence and then get the shank on Sentomaru. He kind of saw it, but it was already by then too late. So I think he does also have a degree of that too. Sanji against Queen in the manga was a bit different because Queen can sense, but he couldn't sense Sanji at all when Sanji just vanished with pure speed for an extended time. So that could be just Sanji stuff, but that also could involve in some way suppressing your presence too. Unclear. So that being said, that is abilities and skills, and I would say in a general sense, Rob Lucci in power, I do see him in like the same category, the same tier as many of the cats I put in the first division commander sort of spot. Marco the Phoenix, Jinbei, and Sanji, and Zoro, and King of the Wildfire. All these guys are put in a very similar spot in power, and I think Rob Lucci is in that pool of power. If Rob Lucci was at Marineford and he was on Whitebeard's team, he would require Admiral attention. Would he be one? No. But I think he would require that attention nonetheless, because he is that ferocious and that skilled of a fighter. A very, very powerful dude. So that's my take on Rob Lucci and where he lies power-wise. In the future, I'm gonna do more of these because they're pretty, I think, good to like break down certain components, obviously, of a character's combat ability overall. I want to keep things like relatively fair and focus on the manga predominantly, though I will say I should have broken down, I think, abilities and skills, and then probably broken down the intelligence into IQ and then battle IQ, because a lot of cats do separate those two, but at the same time, those are interlocked. It's a weird thing, but whatever. In the future, we'll get it all sorted out. But let me know your stance on this video and your thoughts on Rob Lucci's power level at this point in time. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click on that bell to join the notification squad. I'm gonna catch you guys and gals on the flip side.
See you. Bye-bye.